All right, so Nanobiotix just dropped their H2 2025 earnings. And if you just glanced at the numbers, yikes, they look rough. But trust me, the real story here isn't about a single quarter. It's about a company building what I'm calling a two-engine rocket. And we're going to break down exactly what that is. So, who is Nanobiotix? In a nutshell, they're a biotech company doing some really fascinating stuff on the frontier of medicine. They're using physics, physics, and nanotechnology to come up with completely new ways to go after cancer. We're not talking about just another pill here. This is a totally different way of thinking. And this right here is what I was talking about. This is where the confusion starts. If you were just scrolling through financial news, this is what you'd see. A miss on earnings per share and wow, a huge miss on revenue. Your first thought would probably be, okay, this company is in trouble. So, is it bad news? Should everyone be running for the hills? Well, here's the thing about biotech, and you've probably heard this before. The headline numbers, they almost never tell the full story. To really get what's happening, you gotta pop the hood and look at the engines. All right, let's talk about engine number 1. This is their main product right now, a radio enhancer called NBTXR3. Now, this is their more established tech. And the goal here is pretty straightforward. Take a weapon against cancer that we already use all the time and supercharge it. And the way it works is actually kind of brilliant in its simplicity. So a radio enhancer is basically this tiny nanoparticle that gets injected right into a tumor. Then, when the patient gets standard radiation therapy, these little particles act like a magnifying glass. They just focus all that radiation energy, making it way more destructive to the cancer cells, while, and this is key, sparing the healthy tissue around it. So why is this such a big deal? Well, think about it. Radiation therapy is a cornerstone of cancer treatment. Over 60%, more than half, of all cancer patients get it. So if you have a technology that can make that procedure better, you're looking at a potential market that is just absolutely massive. I mean, huge. And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea stuck in a lab. They've landed a major partnership with Johnson & Johnson, and J&J is now the one running and paying for the two most critical clinical trials. We're talking a massive phase 3 trial for head and neck cancer and a really, really important phase 2 for lung cancer. And we're already getting some really promising hints from that lung cancer trial. Now, it's early data from a small group, but it's super encouraging. Get this. Out of the first 7 patients, 5 had a positive response. And even better, they had a 100% disease control rate. That is exactly the kind of early sign you hope for. Okay, so engine 1 is looking good, right? It's firing on all cylinders, it's in the hands of a huge partner, and the early data is positive. But that's only half the story. What about the future? What's going to power the next stage for this company? And that brings us to engine number 2. This one's called Curadism, and it's their nanoprimer platform. Think of it like this. If engine 1 is all about making an old treatment better, engine 2 is about unlocking the door for completely new kinds of medicine. Okay, this is just brilliant. It tackles a massive problem in medicine. You know all these cutting-edge therapies we hear about like RNA treatments or cancer-fighting viruses? Well, a lot of them have an Achilles heel, the liver. It acts like this overeager security guard that grabs most of the drug before it can get to where it needs to go. So what does the nanoprimer do? It's a decoy. You inject it first, it keeps the liver busy for a little while, and then the real drug can sneak right past and hit its target. It's a really simple 4-step move. You inject the nanoprimer, the liver gets occupied, you inject the actual medicine, and boom, it gets to where it needs to be. Why is this so important? Because it could be the key that unlocks a whole new frontier of medicine. All those powerful therapies that are stuck in development because the liver keeps blocking them, this platform could finally set them free and get them to patients. And this isn't just them talking about their own cool idea. The industry is already paying attention. They've signed more than 20, that's 20 agreements with other pharma and biotech companies. These companies are now testing Curadism with their own drugs. That is a massive vote of confidence. So, okay, we've got 2 powerful engines, but you know what rockets need? Fuel, lots of it. So let's flip back to the money side of things and see how Nanobiotix is planning to pay for all this. And this is where those confusing headline numbers from the start begin to make sense. You know, the CEO, Laurent Levy, said it himself. He said, "We are creating new classes of drugs." That's not a small statement. That is a massive, bold vision. And to pull something like that off, you need a rock-solid financial foundation. First up, they locked in up to $71 million in a financing deal. Now, the magic word here is non-dilutive. For anyone who follows the business side of biotech, you know this is a huge deal. It means they got the cash without having to create a ton of new stock, which would have diluted the value for current shareholders. It's a much smarter, healthier way to raise money, and it signals a lot of confidence.
Second, let's talk about that revenue miss and the drop in R&D spending. They're actually two sides of the same coin. R&D expenses dropped by 43%. Why? Because they successfully passed the gigantic bill for that phase 3 trial over to their partner Johnson & Johnson. So this isn't them cutting back on research. It's a really smart strategic move that saves them a ton of cash.
And what's the end result of these moves? The bottom line is this. The company now has enough cash to last them into early 2028. Think about that. That gets them way past the big data reveals for Engine 1 and gives them a really stable runway to keep developing Engine 2. All right, so the rocket has its fuel, both engines are fired up. So where is this thing going? Let's look at the destination. What are the key milestones coming up that are going to tell us if this whole mission is going to be a success? Mark your calendars for 2027, because that's the big year. Early in the year, we're expecting the full results from that phase 2 lung cancer trial. Then, in the first half of the year, we get the data from the huge phase 3 head and neck cancer trial. I mean, these are the real make or break moments for Engine 1. But we don't have to wait that long for everything. There's a pretty steady stream of news coming before then. We've got 4 other clinical readouts expected in the next year alone. We should be getting new data on the Curatigam platform before the end of this summer, and of course their important work with the MD Anderson Cancer Center is ongoing. So plenty to keep an eye on. So let's bring it all back to where we started. Those scary headline numbers? Pretty misleading, right? The real story here is a company that's got 2 totally separate but super powerful engines of technology. They've got a powerhouse partner, and they've got enough cash to see them through, which really just leaves us with one big question. Can 2 tiny, tiny engines built on the power of nanotechnology actually reshape the entire future of how we treat cancer? Well, that's the big question, isn't it?